for most of my life, I've saved gold and silver. I have millions in gold coins and silver coins.
Well, I'm 61, and I have a net worth of several $100 million, and I have zero invested in gold and silver.
We are back with another showdown between Dave Ramsey and Robert Kiyosaki. And this time it's over a really important issue that a lot of people are discussing, which is whether or not you should be buying gold and silver. On the one hand, you have Robert Kiyosaki. He's worth hundreds of millions of dollars and the famous author of Rich Dad, Poor Dad. And he says that you should buy gold and silver.
Number one investment that everybody in the world can afford is silver.
On the other hand, we have Dave Ramsey. He's also worth hundreds of millions of dollars, a really famous voice in the personal finance space, and he's saying that he doesn't have any gold and silver. The question is, who is right and what is the best thing for you? We're going to get into that right now. So Robert Kiyosaki is all for people buying gold and silver.
My first investment was a gold coin.
So what's behind this idea? Well, first of all, gold and silver has been a means of exchange for hundreds, even thousands of years throughout human history. And so people look at gold and silver as a safe haven if the dollar ever collapses, if the economy ever were to collapse. And I believe a lot of people, Robert Kiyosaki included, look at gold and silver as a way to have something valuable to exchange for goods and services if the US dollar were to ever disappear or something like that. However, Dave Ramsey makes a really great point.
A failed economy that would rely on gold and silver will, before it relies on that, will turn into a barter economy.
In the sense that if we ever get to a situation where the US dollar collapses, the Canadian dollar collapses, the economies become completely worthless, and a lot of the systems that are in place all go away, he makes a great point in the sense that we probably will go back to some type of barter economy, some type of economy where people are exchanging services for goods and different things like that, as opposed to gold and silver. And so I do really like the point he makes. However, in that same comment, he says that gold and silver has no intrinsic value.
I mean, gold and silver does not have intrinsic value.
And the reality is that is not true. If we look at gold and silver, both of them have a lot of technological applications that they can be used for, specifically in the development of things like microchips and circuits. And with the ongoing and increased production of things like electric vehicles, which require thousands, maybe even hundreds of thousands of little chips and circuits in order for them to function, the demand for gold and silver should, in theory, be going up. And I think that is Robert Kiyosaki's main point, is that if you're investing in gold and silver right now, you may see its value increase more rapidly than we've seen in the past because of the fact that this increased demand for gold and silver in the creation of chips and circuits and different things like that should cause the prices of these metals to go up. One thing Robert Kiyosaki says is that he bought his first gold coin for $50.
My first investment was a gold coin. The date was 1972. Gold coin today is worth almost $2,000. And I still have it. So
What'd you pay for it?
$50.
And now it's worth $2,000 over a 50-year period. And if we look, that is only a return of approximately 7.4% per year. If the same person had put $50 into the S&P 500, they would have averaged a 10% or more return per year as per the statistics and have over $8,000. So gold in and of itself is not a great investment. If we look at the returns of gold for the last 20, 30, 40, 50 years.
In the last 10 years, gold has averaged 3.6%, while the stock market has averaged almost 12.
Now, that might be a better thing than keeping your money sitting in cash. It might be a better thing than just spending your money or leaving your money in a savings account. But overall, there are other places to get a better return. And that's what Dave Ramsey is saying. Now, ultimately, my personal belief is that it is great to have diversification among your investments. Having some in science and technology, some in healthcare, some in precious metals, some in real estate. Having a diversified range of different investments is the best thing for people because it minimizes your risk. So over time, having a little bit in everything is probably not a terrible idea. What the bad thing to do would be to concentrate your investments only in precious metals, only in technology, only in healthcare. And the reason I say that is because if something goes wrong in one of those areas, you could lose a ton of money. But let's say you wanted to invest in gold and silver. You wanted to follow the opinion of Robert Kiyosaki and have something in the precious metal space. How would you do it?
How? How?
Well, you have a couple of different options. The first one, of course, is physical gold and silver. Now, this is something that I don't typically recommend, and the reason I say that is because it doesn't allow you to take advantage of the tax-preferred accounts here in Canada.
Well, the reason the rich don't work for money is number one expense is tax.
So if you were to go out and buy some gold, physical gold, it would be very difficult for you to take advantage of the fact that maybe this gold can grow inside your accounts tax-free. Maybe buying this gold can help you lower your taxes by putting it in through an RSP. Buying physical gold and silver in that way makes it more difficult for you to take advantage of the tax benefits of the various accounts that are available to all Canadians. And the same thing would probably apply in the United States. Now, one thing you need to understand is that the other drawback to buying physical gold and silver is you have to have a place to store it, right? Whether you have a safe, you open up something at the bank, whatever the case may be, there is an extra cost to making sure it's stored in a safe spot. Another potential drawback to potentially owning gold and silver, a silver piece doesn't cost very much money, but buying, an ounce of gold or something, that may be a fairly high barrier to entry. So those are a few reasons why physical gold and silver might not be a great idea. If it's still something you want to do, the one advantage, of course, is that you have control over it and it's safe and within your control. So if you're someone who doesn't trust banks or the government or whatever the case may be, knock yourself out. Another way you can add physical gold or precious metals as a sector to your overall portfolio is looking for a fund that contains those exact things, whether it's an ETF or a mutual fund. When you look for these type of funds, just be careful on what you're actually buying, because as Muslims, we have to make sure the investments that we are making are in fact halal investments. So if we look at a halal mutual fund or a halal ETF, we need to see whether or not we're investing in a mutual fund or ETF that has physical gold and silver, whether we are investing in a mutual fund or ETF that contains companies that mine gold and silver. What's the difference, you might ask? Well, if a fund contains physical gold and silver and that's the only thing we're investing in, no worries. This is 100% halal. You can absolutely invest in this fund. But if it contains mining companies that mine gold or mine silver, you might have to look a little bit deeper into those companies to make sure they're actually Sharia compliant. Perhaps they're taking on too much debt. Perhaps they're governing their business in a way that isn't actually halal. And so if that's the case, then you cannot own a fund that contains companies of mining companies that have mine gold and silver or whatever the case may be, because they may not necessarily be halal. Overall, and in my view, I don't think it is necessary to have gold and silver as an investment. I don't think that we're going to have a situation where the economy completely collapses. And even if we ever did have that type of situation, I don't think gold and silver are going to be as beneficial as people think.
Then gold is really not where you would put your money. You should put your money in water bottles of water, bullets, blue jeans, and gasoline.
I think it'll be a lot more necessary to know how to survive, know how to garden, know how to make your own food. I also think it'll be necessary for you to have your own food and different skills and things like that that'll actually come in handy to people. I don't think it's going to be something where you can just have gold and silver and whatever, because a lot of the mechanisms and supply chains and things like that that were once in place probably won't be in place in the same way that they once were. So if we're talking about, fiscal Armageddon, the collapse of an economy and different things like that, I don't think gold and silver is going to be as valuable as the so-called wise people out there are going, make it out to be. At the same time, I don't think it's a terrible investment having gold and silver as a part of your overall portfolio, including, different types of mutual funds that invest in various sectors like technology, healthcare, science, and whatever the case may be, is just fine. And if you want a little bit of extra help figuring out what the right plan is for you, click the link below and book a free call, CanadianIslamicWealth.com. We'd love to help you. Thank you so much for watching. Jazakallah khair. Assalamu alaikum.